Facts and fact tables. What exactly is a fact table and why do we need it? The literal definition. A fact table contains numeric measurable values produced by operational measurable events in the real world. A fact table indicates quantifiable values at the very basic level. A fact table does not depend on the reports you need, but depends on the underlying part that you need for all reports. Therefore, never base a fact table on just one report, but assume that you will use the model for multiple reports. So the measurable values that you have will then be supplemented with dimensions. And we do that with a key, also known as a foreign key. Thus, in the fact table, at each line level there is a fact, for example, an order line. An order line has a product ID, and that product ID refers to the product's dimension. The product's dimension table contains all product information, such as product information and product number. The fact table only contains the fact that there is an order line, meaning that a sale has taken place. The fact table thus refers to the dimension table. Let's discuss facts. Obviously, facts are not all the same, so you constantly need to carefully check whether one fact can be added to another fact. But how many different kinds of facts are there? Firstly, there are so-called additive facts. Those are the easiest, because you can use a fully additive fact with any linked dimension. You can add them together, multiply them, calculate an average, and so forth. A fully additive fact is therefore the best usable fact that you can have. There are also semi-additive facts. Here, the application is more difficult. Let's compare it with an additive fact. With a fully additive fact, you can, for example, add the number of products sold on day 1 to the number of products sold on day 2. You can also calculate the average number of products sold on the basis of these simple facts. Now, let's look at a semi-additive fact. Let's take stock as an example. In our example, the inventory yesterday stood at 100 products. Next, 50 products were sold, bringing the stock down to 50 products, being 100 minus 50 equals 50. These two pieces of data are in your report, but you can't add them together. Because if the stock was 100 yesterday and it's 50 today, you can't say that you had 150 items in stock. Therefore, always make sure that you are dealing with fully additive facts or with semi-additive facts. Finally, there are also non-additive facts. For example, these are ratios that can't be added together. If you calculate a ratio on a particular day, and you repeat that the next day, then there's no use in calculating it. A non-additive fact is therefore in reality no more than a simple communication. We can therefore distinguish between the three main types of facts: fully additive, semi-additive, and non-additive. So far, we've discussed the contents of the fact table, but the fact table itself also has a number of variations. The most flexible and most used fact table there is the so-called transactional fact table. Here, a table row will correspond to a measurement at a specific time, such as an order date or order time at order line level. If we look at a periodic snapshot, then it's slightly different than the transaction example. A periodic snapshot only deals with data at a certain default period, such as a week, month, or year. Such a periodic snapshot is applied when the system becomes too bogged down to process all the data. Then you take a snapshot and you put that in the fact table. In that way, you are able to lighten the load on the analysis system. The inventory of a product is a good example of this. The inventory permutations in an operational system can in fact generate millions of records. That's why, in the interests of speed when generating reports, you should only provide data that applies. For example, in the case of product inventory, you would only enter changes that have occurred in the current year or current month. So always be aware that a periodic snapshot deals with specified time periods. That's really important. We have now discussed two fact table variations. Another thing you should always remember is that a fact table always has its own attribute. You can never have a combination of different types of fact tables. For example, a transactional fact table can never be combined with periodic snapshots. You either have the one or the other. In addition to the fact tables discussed so far, there are several fact table variations that fall outside the scope of this tutorial. However, I should like to mention one of the complex types, the consolidated fact table. In this type of fact table, sales actuals can be consolidated with sales forecasts in a single fact table. Because they occur in each line, it's easier to make comparison reports. Just to recap, we have the content of a fact table and we have the fact table itself. Both have different variations, and that's useful to remember, especially the content of the fact table. Which means, what kind of fact is it? Is it fully additive, semi-additive, or completely non-additive? Before starting with reports, you must always first establish the type of fact as well as what type of fact table it is.